Hey, Happy New Year. 2024 is here, and for me, it's the year that I'm going to rise up and speak the truth in love. Welcome to session 6 of David and Goliath. There are Goliaths that are destroying our culture and our land. We must have a spirit of David to rise up and defeat the Goliaths in these days before it's too late. And what a great time to do that in 2024, to speak the truth in love. And one of the ways that we can have hope is to remember our victories. The iconic biblical story of David and Goliath. David was a teenager, walked into armies facing each other with both armies terrified in fear. We live in a culture and a society of fear and fear-mongering. And so, excuse me, David walked in with a different spirit, and he said to the king was terrified too, wouldn't go face Goliath. He said, I can do it. I've beaten the bear, and I've beaten the lion, and I can beat Goliath. He remembered the victories. Now, I tell you what, there are many, many, many times, I'm sure, a bear or a lion took a sheep from David, but he chose to remember the victories, and even very specifically the victories. He had a spirit of aggression and tenacity about him to do what he needed to do. And when he did lose, what did he do about that? If a lion got away, he probably threw a stone at him and missed. He practiced. He got better, but that's for another lesson and another day. He knew very specifically what he's going to do. It's kind of cool. I'm going to read here. The Lord will, David now speaking to the Goliath, the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike down and cut off your head. Wow. So David did. The stone struck him. Goliath fell. David stood over him. He took hold of the Philistine sword, drew it from the sheath, and killed him by cutting off his head with Goliath's own sword. But here's the part that probably a little bit gruesome, but I want you to catch. Okay? David took the Philistine's head and brought it to Jerusalem, where he put it in his tent. He remembered the victories. I bet you his tent not only had Goliath's head, that thing had to be big. I don't know, 30 pounds maybe. There it was, mounted on the wall, along with a bear's head, probably, along with a lion's head, probably, along with a coyote's head, probably. There it was. He remembered the times that he won. Kay and I have prayed for and with literally tens of thousands of people over the last 45 years. I'm not exaggerating. And many, many times, seemingly, our prayers, in the natural anyway, didn't seem to have any effect. We fought battles that in the realm of rationality we lost. But you know what I choose to believe? I choose to believe the victories. And I've had a few victories. Kay and I have had a few victories, but I want to share this one and basically honor a lady called Mary Dorr. I was her pastor. She called me one night and said, my grandson has a brain hemorrhage. He's in the emergency. Would you please come? And I did. She had hundreds of people praying. So I got to the emergency room there and got into where the doctor was doing a head scan, MRI type thing on this boy's head. And there was just a pool of blood. About a third of his brain was obliterated. And the mom, I was sitting there with the mom and the dad and the doctor, and the doctor turned around, had horrible bedside manners, looked right at the mother. He said, she started to kind of lose it. He said, just calm down. I lost a son too. I'm going, whoa, what have I stepped into here? So they wheeled Chad out, and I prayed over him, went into the emergency room. We're walking through the emergency room. I'm walking alongside the doctor. The mom and dad are behind me. He leans over to me and says, you got to prepare them. He's not coming out of surgery alive. I thought, whoa. So we go back, he goes in, we go back to the prayer room. Now again, Mary, I'm not taking credit for anything here. Mary had hundreds of people praying by that time, okay? And I felt really prompted in that prayer room. It was actually the waiting room for surgery. I looked right at Bill. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I looked right at Mary and Bill and I said, you'll be communicating with your son by the end of the day. Whoa. That was scary, but I spoke the truth the way I saw it, the way I discerned it in love. And I'm speaking the truth in this culture now. The Goliaths, the vile, evil Goliaths that want to mutilate our children, put mental illness on our children, boys thinking they're girls and girls thinking they're boys. I'm going to speak the truth in love. It's coming down. And I said to Bill and Mary, I said, you will speak to your son. You'll be communicating with your son by the end of the day. So I walk into he did survive the surgery, by the way. I walk into the ICU the next day, and he had all these tubes in him and on, but his eyes got real big when he looked at me, and I didn't know what that meant. I just said hello. He couldn't talk, and so I left. Came back then the next day, and I walked in, the tubes were gone. And by the way, that night, Bill and Mary told me, that same night, within that day, 2 o'clock in the morning to the next evening, he still couldn't talk, but Mary and Bill were asking him questions, and they were squeezing hands and communicating. A miracle. Closest thing I ever came personally to the raising of the dead. It was incredible. I walk in the next day, and now you're going to think I'm crazy, and I don't care, because I'd rather be in my right mind and trust and believe in miracles to defeat Goliath and the Goliaths of the land than to sit back and let them continue to run over us and use our money to propagate their evil agendas. Okay, having said that, I walk into the IC room again. His eyes got real big, and he looked at me, and he said, "It's you." I said, "Yeah, I'm Pastor Curt, your grandma's pastor." No, it's you. "I saw you yesterday." Yeah, I came in yesterday, Chad." He looked at me really intently, and he said, "Do you know who was standing by you when you came in?" "I was alone." "No, Jesus was standing right by your side." I got goosebumps. There's more to the story that's even wilder than that, but I'll stop there. I remember that story, and others. Not the hundreds of times it seemed like it was defeated. I'm just kind of pragmatic. Most of my prayers seemingly didn't have much of an effect. I believe they do. I stand on faith, but I didn't see it in the natural. This one, right before our eyes, God saved a young man's life. It was a joy. That's the one I remember. What are you going to remember going into 2024? Are you going to speak the truth in love? Are you going to take big chances like I did in that waiting room, declaring to a mom and dad that they'd be communicating with their son when the doctor was 100% sure he was going to die? In fact, even when he came out of surgery, there was, again, the parents and I and a couple other people and the doctor. I could tell the doctor was mad. He said, "Well, the surgery went well." And I couldn't even believe he said this. This is horrible doctor manners. He said, "If Chad ever wakes up, he's going to be a vegetable." Again, I was so upset with this doctor. I declared the opposite. We look at the things that are happening in this culture and the Goliaths tearing down everything reasonable, lying left and right about us. I'm not even talking about Christianity. You might think I'm kind of nuts in my Christianity, but good, God-fearing, traditional American values, the hundreds that went on to January 6th and all the lies that are spread about that. We got Goliaths in the land. We need to be brave. Stand up, speak the truth in love, and support the Davids and the spirit of Davids in this land. I'm supporting one if you want to explore my channel here, and I'm trying to get that spirit of David so that we can rise up in these days and declare the truth in love and move the Goliaths back, and maybe some of them, figuratively speaking, not physical violence, but figuratively, or analyze. Let's knock some of them down, cut off their head. They're really evil right now. So, this is Coach Curt. Thank you. If you liked what you're hearing in this David series, please subscribe to my channel. I want to get the word out about it.